So I haven't really talked to my family for about 3 years now. Not by choice, but because I'm apparently the disappointment of the Anderson family. Why? Because I make furniture instead of being a doctor or lawyer or whatever the hell else they think equals success. Growing up, my parents always had this weird obsession with status. Dad runs a construction company that does luxury homes, and mom's whole personality is being a respected community leader, which basically means she's in everyone's business and hosts charity events so people think she's amazing. My sister Brooklyn went to law school, and my brother Roger is in finance, both doing exactly what my parents wanted. Me? I wanted to make things with my hands, always have. Used to spend hours in my grandpa's workshop before he died, and he actually left me his tools when I was 17. My parents hated that. They had my college path all mapped out, business school, then take over dad's company someday. When I switched majors to design and woodworking, you'd think I told them I was becoming a drug dealer. Graduation day was a nightmare. My mom literally asked me not to mention my degree when relatives asked. My dad barely looked at me. Brooklyn and Roger got these massive graduation parties with everyone congratulating them. I got a dinner where my dad spent the whole time talking about how I could still fix this mistake by getting an MBA. Fast forward to now. I've built my own small business making custom furniture. I'm not rich, but I pay my bills, have my own apartment, and actually love what I do. I've even been featured in a couple local magazines. Not that my family would know or care. The last time I saw them was Christmas 3 years ago. I brought my then-girlfriend Sarah home, and it was awful. My dad spent dinner grilling her about her career aspirations and whether she was ambitious enough, while my mom kept showing her pictures of Brooklyn's ex who was in med school. Then Roger made some comment about how I better lock her down before she realizes she could do better, and laughed like it was a joke. Sarah broke up with me a week later, said my family made her uncomfortable and she couldn't deal with that drama long term. Can't really blame her. After that, I just stopped trying. Didn't call, didn't visit. They barely noticed. The few times my mom texted, it was usually just forwarding articles about career changes or asking if I'd reconsidered going back to school. Real supportive stuff. Then last week, out of nowhere, I get a text from my mom. Lorenzo, we think it's time to put the past behind us. Come for Thanksgiving, we need to talk. Dad and I have been thinking a lot about family lately. Not gonna lie, that text messed me up. I read it like 20 times trying to figure out if it was genuine. Part of me wanted to tell them to fuck off, but another part, I don't know, still wanted their approval or something? So I texted back that I'd be there. Mom responded with a thumbs up emoji. Real warm. I spent the whole week stressing about it. Bought a nice bottle of wine, even got my hair cut. Practiced what I'd say about my business. The clients I've had, the pieces I've sold. Stupid, right? Still trying to prove myself after all this time. Thanksgiving Day, I got up early and drove 4 hours to get to their house. The whole drive I was rehearsing conversations in my head, thinking maybe they'd finally seen that I was doing okay on my own terms. Maybe they were getting older and realizing family was more important than status. Maybe someone was sick. That thought actually scared me. I pull up to their house around 4 p.m., the time they told me dinner would be, and immediately something feels off. The house is completely dark. No cars in the driveway, no smoke from the chimney, no Thanksgiving smells. Nothing. I sat in my car for like 10 minutes thinking, maybe I got the date wrong? Checked my phone. Nope, definitely today. Checked the time? Yep, right time. Finally, I went and knocked. No answer. As I'm standing there on the porch like an idiot, the neighbor, Mrs. Linda, who's lived next door forever, comes running over. She looks super uncomfortable. She tells me they all left yesterday for Cabo. Said they were laughing about something as they got in their taxi. She thought it was weird I wasn't with them since it was a family trip, but figured maybe I was meeting them. I'm standing there trying to process this when my phone starts ringing. It's a WhatsApp video call from my dad. I answer it, and holy shit, they're all there on a fucking beach. Dad's face is red from drinking. He's laughing so hard he can barely talk. Ha 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 ha. Ah, look who showed up. The reject. In the background, I can hear everyone howling with laughter. Mom grabs the phone. She's wearing this huge sun hat and sunglasses. Did you bring your pathetic apology letter? We were betting on what excuses you'd have for your failures. More laughter. Then Brooklyn takes the phone and spins it around to show the beach. We're in paradise while you're standing there like an idiot. She's literally cackling. Roger grabs the phone next. Hey, loser, since you drove all that way, water the plants and take out our trash. Then he high-fives my Uncle Tate. I can see all my cousins in the background chanting, failure, failure, like it's the funniest thing they've ever seen. Uncle Tate zooms in on my face and asks if I still have that minimum wage job making tables or whatever. My Aunt Susan is cackling about how I probably told my therapist I was finally getting invited back. Then they all start screaming together, "Thanksgiving is for real family only." Mrs. Linda is standing there watching this whole thing, looking horrified. I just stared at the camera for a second, then said very calmly, "You'll regret this," and hung up. Mrs. Linda started apologizing like it was her fault, said she would have warned me if she'd known. I thanked her and got back in my car. I drove to the nearest hotel in a complete daze, checked in, and just sat on the bed staring at the wall. My phone kept blowing up with texts from them, screenshots of my face, more jokes about me being a loser. Roger asking if I was crying yet. I blocked every single one of them. Then I ordered room service, got completely drunk, and passed out. When I woke up the next morning, I felt something I've never really felt before. Not sadness, not even anger exactly, just clarity. They've spent my whole life making me feel like I wasn't good enough, like my choices made me less valuable as a person. They enjoyed humiliating me. This wasn't just a stupid prank. They spent money on this. They planned this. They coordinated a family vacation around the specific purpose of making me drive 4 hours to an empty house so they could laugh at me from a beach in Mexico. Well, they wanted to show me I wasn't part of the family. Fine. Message received. But they're about to learn that I'm not just going to walk away this time. They think I'm a failure. I'm about to show them exactly what I'm capable of. I've spent the last week putting together a plan. They're so obsessed with success and status. Let's see how they like having their precious reputations and finances fucked with. I'm going to destroy everything they care about, and I won't break a single law doing it. Update 1. The support honestly helped a lot when I was at my lowest point. Some of you suggested I just cut contact and move on with my life. And believe me, I considered it. But these people don't deserve to just get away with what they did. They've been treating me like garbage for years. And I'm done being their punching bag. So after that disaster of a Thanksgiving, I drove back home and spent the next few days just processing everything. I barely slept, kept replaying that video call in my head. The way they all laughed. How planned it was. That wasn't some spur-of-the-moment thing. They coordinated an entire fake Thanksgiving invitation and vacation just to humiliate me. I've always known my family was messed up, but this was next-level cruel. And for what? Because I make furniture instead of sitting in some office? Because I didn't follow Daddy's perfect plan for my life? Anyway, once the shock wore off, I started getting curious. They've always acted so superior, like they're these amazing, successful people, and I'm just this huge disappointment. But are they really as great as they pretend? So I started digging. Nothing illegal, just some basic research. And holy shit, the cracks in their perfect facade started showing real quick. First thing I found was this review site for local businesses. Turns out my dad's construction company has been getting hammered with negative reviews lately. Like really bad ones. Complaints about cutting corners, using cheap materials while charging premium prices. Projects left half-finished. His rating dropped from like 4.5 stars to 2.7 in the past year. That's a massive red flag in that industry. Then I remembered my old high school friend Alex, whose dad works in real estate. We hadn't talked in years, but I hit him up on Instagram. Just casual catching up at first, but then I asked if he'd heard anything about my dad's business. He was kinda hesitant, but eventually told me everyone in that circle knows my dad's company is in trouble. Apparently he's been losing contracts left and right and had to lay off like half his crew. Interesting how they never mentioned that while they were calling me a failure from their beach vacation. Next, I looked into my sister Brooklyn. Miss Perfect Lawyer. According to her social media, she's getting married next month to this guy named Derek. She's been posting these over-the-top wedding planning photos, designer dress fittings, fancy venue tours, the works. But here's the weird part. She tagged my parents in every single post thanking them for making her dream wedding possible. Why would my parents be paying for her entire wedding if she's such a successful lawyer? Doesn't add up. So I did something I probably should have done years ago. I called my Aunt Janet, my mom's sister. They had some big falling out like 5 years ago and don't speak anymore. I always liked Janet though. She was the only one who seemed genuinely interested in my furniture work. That call was eye-opening. Janet had a lot to say once I told her about the Thanksgiving prank. Turns out my parents have been telling everyone I'm some kind of fuck-up with mental problems who can't hold down a job. They've been saying I dropped out of college, I graduated, just not in the major they wanted, that I'm always asking them for money, I haven't taken a cent from them since I was 21, and that I'm unstable. Janet said they use me as their cautionary tale. Like, look what happens when you don't listen to your parents' advice. She said they did the same thing with her when she divorced her husband. Suddenly, she became the family embarrassment they could feel superior to. But the really interesting stuff was about their finances. According to Janet, my parents remortgaged their house twice in the last few years to keep up appearances. Dad's business has been struggling for a while, but they're still living the same lifestyle, still taking fancy vacations, still paying for Brooklyn's ridiculous wedding. And my brother Roger, Mr. Big Shot finance guy? Janet said he's been job hopping because he keeps getting passed over for promotions. Apparently, he talks a big game but doesn't have the skills to back it up. He's been at 3 different firms in 2 years. So basically, my entire family is living in a house of cards. They're so obsessed with looking successful that they're going into massive debt to maintain the illusion. Meanwhile, they've been using me as their emotional punching bag to make themselves feel better. I spent the next few days reaching out to other people from my hometown. Old neighbors, family friends, my parents' social circle, just casual conversations at first. But I started dropping little comments about how weird it was that my family tells everyone I'm a dropout when I have a degree, or how strange that they say I'm always asking for money when I run my own business. People were confused. Some of them straight up didn't believe me at first. My mom's friend Susan was like, "But your mother told the whole book club you were in rehab last year." What? I've never been to rehab in my life. The more I talk to people, the more I realize my family has built this entire fictional version of me to make themselves look better. They've been trashing me to anyone who would listen for years. I made a point to send some of these people pictures of my workshop and furniture pieces. The looks on their faces when they realized I wasn't the loser my family described, priceless. Then yesterday morning, something interesting happened. My brother Roger texted me. First contact since the Cabo video call. All it said was, "We need to talk. Call me." I didn't respond. An hour later, another text. "Seriously, Lorenzo, call me. It's important." Then another. "What the fuck have you been saying to people?" And then, "Dad is losing it. What are you trying to do?" I still haven't responded. My phone's been blowing up with texts from my mom too. Suddenly they want to talk? After spending years destroying my reputation and then pulling that Thanksgiving stunt? I'm just getting started. Brooklyn's wedding is in 3 weeks. My parents have sunk a ton of money into it. Money they apparently don't really have. From what Janet told me, they're trying to use this wedding to cement their status in the community, invite all the right people, show everyone how successful their family is. Would be a shame if something happened to ruin their big day, wouldn't it? I'm done being the family embarrassment. Time for them to see what it feels like when someone destroys your reputation and financial stability. They're about to learn that the failure they've been mocking all these years isn't as powerless as they thought. Update 2. Holy shit, you guys, the last 2 weeks have been insane. I thought I'd have to put in a ton of work to make my family feel the consequences of their actions, but honestly, once I got the ball rolling, it's like watching dominoes fall on their own. So after I posted my last update, I still hadn't responded to any of Roger's texts. He kept sending more, each one getting more desperate. Then he tried calling, like 15 times in a row. I let them all go to voicemail. Finally, I decided to hear what he had to say, so I texted back with just, "What do you want?" He immediately called again. When I answered, he was practically whispering, like he didn't want anyone to hear him. Apparently, my dad had been going around damage control mode, trying to figure out who I'd been talking to. Roger claimed he wasn't part of planning the Thanksgiving prank. Total BS. I literally saw him on the video call and was just going along with it because Dad and Mom pressured him. Yeah, right? The real reason he was calling? Dad's business partner Marco had called asking about the son who makes furniture and whether the rumors about how they treated me were true. Apparently, Marco's wife is friends with one of the neighbors I talked to. Small towns, man. I just laughed and told Roger that all I've been doing is telling the truth. They're the ones who've been lying about me for years. He got all defensive, saying I was trying to ruin the family. Right before Brooklyn's wedding, I reminded him that they invited me to an empty house while they mocked me from a beach in Mexico. They seemed fine with ruining family then. He hung up on me. The next day, I get a text from Brooklyn. First time she's contacted me directly in like 2 years. It was a long paragraph about how I needed to grow up and stop being vindictive because I was jealous of her success. Classic Brooklyn, always making everything about her. But there was something different in her tone. She mentioned her fiancé Derek twice, saying he was asking questions and acting weird ever since he heard about the Thanksgiving thing. That's when I had an idea. I found Derek on Instagram, not hard. Brooklyn posts about him constantly, and sent him a DM. Just said I was Brooklyn's brother, that we hadn't been introduced yet, and I wanted to congratulate him on the upcoming wedding. He responded almost immediately, saying Brooklyn had told him I wasn't in the picture due to personal issues. I asked what kind of issues she'd mentioned. He was vague, but said something about me being unstable and having problems with the family. So I sent him the video, the Thanksgiving call. I still had it recorded on my phone. I'd saved it that night at the hotel, told him this is how my family treats me, and asked if that matched what Brooklyn had told him. He didn't respond for hours. Then, he just wrote, "What the fuck?" 2 days later, Brooklyn calls me screaming. Apparently, Derek saw how they all treated me and is now reconsidering everything. He told Brooklyn he was disgusted by how cruel they were and asked what kind of family he was marrying into. They had a huge fight, and now he's staying at his brother's place and not returning her calls. The wedding is in 10 days and the groom isn't speaking to her. I couldn't have planned it better myself. Then things escalated even further. Remember my dad's business partner, Marco? Well, word got around fast about how they treated me. Dad's business relies heavily on his reputation in the community. These are people who've known our family for years. They've watched me grow up, and now they're hearing that not only have my parents been lying about me, but they pulled this elaborate, cruel prank just to humiliate me. According to Aunt Janet, who's been keeping me updated on all the gossip, Dad lost 2 major contracts this week, clients who suddenly decided to go another direction. One of them specifically mentioned that they couldn't work with someone who would treat their own son that way. My mom's social standing is taking a hit too. She's on like 5 different community committees and charity boards. Lives for that shit. But suddenly her friends are being too busy to meet for lunch. She got uninvited from hosting the annual Christmas fundraiser she's organized for the past 8 years. Even my Uncle Tate, Dad's brother, called me. This is the same uncle who was zooming in on my face during the video call, asking about my minimum wage job. Now he's claiming he never wanted to be part of that prank, and it was all your father's idea. He also mentioned that his son, my cousin, is looking for custom furniture for his new apartment, and would I be interested in making something? Amazing how quickly they change their tune when there are consequences. The most satisfying part? I haven't actually done anything, except tell the truth. I didn't make up lies about them like they did about me. I didn't create fake problems for them. I just showed people who they really are, and now they're facing the natural consequences of their actions. Last night, things reached a breaking point. My mom finally called. I almost didn't answer, but I was curious what she'd say. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. Between sobs, she kept saying they were just joking with the Thanksgiving thing and didn't think I'd take it so personally. Then she dropped the real bomb. They're in serious financial trouble. With Dad losing clients and Brooklyn's wedding costs piling up, they might lose the house. She actually had the nerve to ask if I could call off the attack because they can't take much more. I told her I wasn't attacking anyone. I was just correcting the lies they'd told about me for years. She started getting angry then, saying I was being vindictive and trying to punish them. That's when I played the video call recording over the phone so she could hear herself laughing and mocking me. Asked her if that sounded like just joking to her. She hung up. This morning, I woke up to an email from my dad. First direct contact from him since the video call. It was different from the others. No anger, no demands, no accusations. Just one line asking if I would meet with the family this weekend at their house. Said they needed to talk to me face to face. Part of me wants to ignore it like they ignored all my attempts to make them proud over the years. But another part, I don't know. I think I want to see them squirm. I want to walk into that house not as the family disappointment, but as the person who brought their perfect facade crashing down just by telling the truth. And I'm curious what they could possibly say to me after everything that's happened. Do they think an apology will fix this? Do they think they can manipulate me into feeling bad for them? Or are they desperate enough to finally treat me with some actual respect? Either way, I'm going. But this time, I'm going on my terms. And if they think the damage I've done so far is bad, they have no idea what I'm still capable of if they try to play me again. I'll update after the meeting. Something tells me it's going to be intense. Final update. So I went to the family meeting this weekend. Wasn't sure what to expect, but definitely wasn't the complete shit show that actually happened. I decided to arrive a little late. Didn't want to give them the power of making me wait. Drove up around 20 minutes after the time Dad suggested in his email. First thing I noticed, the house looked different. Usually their place is pristine. Mom's obsessed with appearances. But the lawn hadn't been mowed in weeks, and Dad's fancy car was gone from the driveway. Just Mom's older SUV parked there. Rang the doorbell, and Roger answered. He looked like absolute crap. Bags under his eyes, wrinkled shirt, hair all messed up. He just nodded and stepped back to let me in without saying anything. The inside of the house was even more shocking. My parents always keep their place looking like a damn furniture showroom, but there were boxes stacked in the corner of the living room and the big family portrait above the fireplace was gone. Mom and Dad were sitting on the couch looking tense as hell. Brooklyn was pacing by the window, frantically texting someone. Nobody said anything for like a solid 30 seconds after I walked in. I didn't help them out. Just stood there waiting. Finally, Dad cleared his throat and asked me to sit down. I stayed standing. Told them I'd come to hear what they had to say, not to get comfortable. Mom immediately started crying. like the fake kind of crying she does when she wants sympathy. Said they never meant to hurt me so badly with their little joke, and they were sorry if I took it the wrong way. I just pulled out my phone, played the video again, let everyone listen to themselves laughing and mocking me, asked them to explain exactly what part I took the wrong way. That shut her up real quick. Dad tried a different approach. Started talking about how this situation was getting out of hand and how we needed to figure out a solution as a family. The way he said it, like this was some kind of business negotiation, made my blood boil. I asked him straight up why they'd always treated me like garbage just because I chose to make furniture instead of joining his business. He actually looked surprised by the question, like he'd never considered that I might want an explanation. After some hemming and hawing, he finally admitted something I'd always suspected but never heard him say out loud. He'd always been embarrassed by me. Said when his business friends would ask about his kids, he loved bragging about Brooklyn the lawyer and Roger in finance, but didn't know what to say about me. Said it reflected poorly on him to have a son who worked with his hands instead of his brain. I laughed in his face. Told him I actually own my own business, design my own pieces, manage my own clients and finances. Asked him how exactly that wasn't working with my brain. He had no answer for that. Brooklyn jumped in then, her voice all shaky. Said her wedding was falling apart because of me. Derek was threatening to call the whole thing off because he was disgusted by how they treated me. Her in-laws were reconsidering if they wanted their son marrying into our family. She said she was going to have to cancel the big venue they'd booked and have a small ceremony instead. I reminded her that she was the one who pointed her phone at the beach and told me I was standing there like an idiot while they were in paradise. Asked her if that was how a loving sister treats her brother. She started yelling that I was ruining her life over a stupid prank. I yelled back that they'd been ruining my life for years by telling everyone I was some unstable dropout who couldn't get his shit together. Roger tried to play peacemaker, saying we all needed to calm down. That's when I really lost it. Told him he was just as bad as the rest of them, always looking down on me, making jokes at my expense, never once standing up for me. He got all defensive, saying he was just trying to fit in with the family and didn't mean anything by it. Classic Roger, never taking responsibility. Mom tried a new tactic then. She got up and tried to hug me, saying she missed her baby boy and wanted to make things right. I stepped back and told her not to touch me. Said I wasn't there for a reconciliation. I was there to hear them admit what they did and why they did it. That's when Dad's mask finally slipped. He stood up, face red, and started shouting that I was being ridiculous. Said I'd always been too sensitive, too artistic, too different from what an Anderson man should be. Said he'd spent years trying to toughen me up, make me more ambitious, but I was just determined to be a disappointment. I asked him if the Thanksgiving prank was another attempt to toughen me up. He couldn't answer that. Brooklyn was still focused on her wedding. Said if I really wanted revenge, I'd already gotten it because now they were going to have a pathetic little ceremony instead of the event they'd planned. Her fiancé, Derek, was demanding they go to couples therapy before getting married. That's when I dropped my own bomb. Told them I'd spoken to Aunt Janet and knew they'd remortgage the house twice. Asked how they were planning to pay for Brooklyn's wedding when Dad's business was tanking. The look on their faces, man, like I'd physically slapped them. Dad turned white. Mom started crying for real this time. Roger slumped into a chair, looking like he was going to be sick. Dad finally admitted they were in serious financial trouble. They'd been living beyond their means for years, trying to keep up appearances. The construction business had been struggling even before I started turning people against them. Now they were facing foreclosure on the house. I asked why they'd spent money on a Cabo vacation just to prank me if they were so broke. Mom mumbled something about it being a package deal they'd booked months ago. Brooklyn cut in that they'd used part of her wedding fund for it, which was why she was extra pissed at them now. That's when the real family drama exploded. Brooklyn started screaming at my parents about using her wedding money for their stupid revenge trip. Roger admitted he'd lost his latest job 2 weeks ago and had moved back home. Dad and Mom started blaming each other for their financial decisions. I just stood there watching them tear into each other. It was like once the facade cracked, all the ugly truth came pouring out. After they'd exhausted themselves fighting with each other, Dad turned to me again. His voice was different now, desperate. Asked what it would take for me to call off the dogs. Said they could make a public apology, admit they'd lied about me, whatever I wanted. I told him it was too late for that. I wasn't actively trying to destroy them anymore. The truth was doing that all by itself. People had seen who they really were, and no apology would change that. Then I laid out my terms. They would stop telling lies about me to anyone, ever. If anyone asked about me, they would tell the truth, that I run my own custom furniture business and chose a different path than what they wanted. They would never contact me again unless I contacted them first. No more guilt trips, no more family obligations, no more judgments about my life choices. If they ever decided to sell the house, they would return my grandfather's old workbench that's still in their garage. It was the only thing I wanted from them. Dad started to argue, but Mom put her hand on his arm and told him to stop. She looked at me for a long moment, then just nodded. I turned to leave, and that's when Brooklyn made one last desperate attempt. She asked if I would at least come to her small wedding, said it would help with appearances if the whole family was there. I laughed and told her that after everything they'd done, she was still just worried about appearances. Told her I wouldn't be attending any wedding where I was only invited to keep up a facade. I walked out, got in my car, and drove away. Didn't look back once. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I've heard through the grapevine that Brooklyn and Derek did get married, but it was a small ceremony at his parents' house instead of the big country club event she'd planned. Roger's still living with my parents and working some temp job, and my parents are trying to sell their house before the bank forecloses on it. Meanwhile, my business is actually doing better than ever. Turns out all the drama led to some unexpected connections. Some of my parents' former friends reached out to commission pieces after hearing about my work. I even got a feature in a regional magazine last month. I haven't spoken to any of my family since that day at the house. Don't plan to either. They showed me exactly who they are and what they think of me. I don't need that toxicity in my life. The funny thing is, I didn't have to do anything elaborate or complicated to get my revenge. I just had to tell the truth and let them face the consequences of their own actions. Turns out that was more devastating than anything I could have planned. Sometimes I think about that Thanksgiving, standing in front of their dark house while they laughed at me from a beach in Mexico. They thought they were so superior, so untouchable. They never imagined their perfect little world could come crashing down around them. But it did, and I didn't even have to push very hard to make it happen.